Ooh, a spicy question. I
because
love
the
it.
writing is sort of everything, right? Like you can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
So some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, but I wanted more of this. So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. On today's episode, I have two guests who have co-authored a novel together. Many years ago, they were part of a university comedy group called Adams Smith Adams. One of those Adamses was the one and only hitchhiker Douglas Adams. But joining us today, we have Martin Smith and Will Adams. Hello.
Hello, good morning. Good morning.
Hello. Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Let's talk first off about the novel, Consequences. So which one of you has the better elevator pitch for the book?
Well, it was initially your idea, Martin, I seem to recall. So, some years ago.
It was, yes, a while back we decided that having not written together for a while, we'd start again. And we decided a novel was the best way to do it, even though we'd only written scripts prior to that. And as we live about, an hour and a half's drive away from each other, meeting regularly was a bit of a problem. So we decided to do it as a game of consequences. As you know, with the game of consequences, you write something, you fold it over and pass it to the next person to see what they write. And that's precisely what we did, only with a sort of bit of internet getting in the way. So basically, one of us wrote the first chapter. We then passed it to the second person who went, oh my God, what do I do with this then? And then worked on it and then passed it back. And that's how we wrote the book, basically, on the grounds that if we could continue to surprise each other and also make each other laugh, then probably a reader might also have that reaction.
It was also very, very liberating because, you were presented with a piece of text with a sort of a cliffhanger or a springboard at the end of it, and you could take the story wherever you liked. There were no constraints. You could introduce characters, get rid of characters, introduce plot points. Because we had no plot, and until the sort of the very end.
We had just the one meeting on it, which was about 2/3 of the way through. We decided to get together and decide what the last chapter should be about, and that's what we led to in the end.
Yeah. So and even then, it didn't really kind of gel together until the very end. We were still able to riff on it a bit, but it was very liberating because anything went, and never did Martin say to me, I don't think that's very good. I don't think we want to go that way. And I never said to him, oh, no, I didn't see it going that way. We accepted where it was going and took it on, picked up the ball and ran with it. So it was a very enjoyable experience.
I think the interesting thing about it is that you've got to bear in mind that we'd written together, we wrote together a hell of a lot a long time ago, and we wrote the way comedy is quite often written. If you think about it, we're not alone doing it this way. People like Galton and Simpson, they all tend to write as pairs, and not least because you can live off each other's humour, and you can react to things quite well. Writing on your own is quite a lonely experience, as I'm sure most of the people listening to this will agree to. But writing together provides real opportunities for moving things on in rather interesting ways.
But I do think that if we had sat down together to write it, it would have been a much more difficult process.
And probably not a laboured one. Yeah.
Yes, and probably not as successful. And the nice thing is that people who've read the book, who know us, can't really tell who wrote what, which is nice because we obviously have got we know we've got a similar sense of humour because that's what brought us together in the first place over 50 years ago.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So. Okay, that's great to know. So obviously that's where the name came from, Consequences.
Yeah. And it has a sort of a bearing on the plot as well.
Sure.
Things that happen as a result of things,
You came together to sort of figure out how it all ties together at the end. Can either of you then tell me, as someone who's like, or anyone listening is like interested, what is the book actually about? What's the story?
Well, the prime thing is about Brexit, really. I mean, it turned into being about Brexit because neither of us thought Brexit was the best idea that a country has ever had. Actually, managing to damage itself quite badly. A country doing that is quite odd. And we kind of wrote about how maybe using time travel you could avoid it.
Okay.
Yeah, by going back, changing the circumstances, coming back to the present and seeing whether changing the circumstances worked, and if it didn't, going back again and having another go.
Oh, I see. So there's a lot of back and forth.
There's a lot of back and forth. Yeah. So the main protagonists are unwitting time travelers who didn't know they were until they met someone who told them they were, and the whole development of how they become time travelers. It's not Doctor Who. This, it's much more grounded. But once they knew they were time travelers, then they were sent on these assignments to just see if things could not have been worked better or avoided altogether.
Yeah. Okay. And you said it wasn't. It sounds like it wasn't initially going to be about Brexit. Were you always going to write satire? Or was that just kind of where you guys naturally found yourselves?
I think it was where it found itself going. I think it gave a point to the toing and froing in time as a means of experimenting with changing circumstances to see whether that ridiculous vote, the old 48-52 vote, could have been changed a little bit more decisively in favour of staying.
Yeah, okay. and the idea was because we have a couple of unwitting time travellers who need to be trained in time travel. That's the other thing. I mean, they're having to learn about how to do it because they've never considered it before. So a lot of the first half of the book is about them learning the pitfalls and the opportunities and the dreadfulness occasionally of travelling back in time throughout their own lives. They have all kinds of odd experiences, not least when our main protagonist meets Douglas Adams in a pub in Islington.
Yes, I don't know how he got in, but
I have no idea. I think he's got
elbowed his way into the book.
He's got his own way of time travelling.
Yes, indeed.
Well, the whole thing really was conceived as not only as an opportunity for us to write together, but as a little bit of a nod back to those days when the three of us were writing together. And then, Douglas's subsequent career.
Yes. I mean, speaking of Douglas Adams, you guys have said that you very much shared, the two of you share a sense of humour to the point where some people have read the book and they can't tell which one of you wrote which part. Is that a similar sentiment to it's similar to the writings of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the stuff that you guys used to do?
I don't really know. I think the interesting way we worked together as a threesome was very much Douglas working on his own, then coming to our college where we were both when we were at Cambridge. We were at the same college. Douglas was at another one. He would write something, he'd bring it up and perform it to the two of us, and we'd say, "Well, that's a very good paragraph. Where does it go exactly?" And he said, "I have no idea, but it's very funny, isn't it?" And we think, "It is very funny, but it doesn't seem to go anywhere." No. Anyway, we'll leave it with you. And we'd sort of move it into something like a sort of 2 or 3 minute sketch and then take it back to him, only to discover that he'd already changed it from a paragraph to a sentence. Because he was very good, as John Lloyd once said, at unwriting. He'd kind of I think basically he was trying to find the funniest single word ever.
Right.
But
he was a great ideas man, and I think that's borne out by Hitchhiker and its sequels. But it was Martin and I think that put the structure onto his ideas and his thoughts and because a sketch has got to have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And you can't just do a funny line, and so really it was a good partnership because
it was.
We obviously we had ideas as well, but we had this knack of actually writing a sketch rather than just a couple of funny sentences, and
We ended up. I mean, the three of us ended up in one. I think one term. I think we wrote 70 sketches together,
Wow.
and then delivered them to John Cleese, who marked them. He gave us a supervision, a tutorial at his home, and marked all the lines that he liked with a blue marker, and all the lines he didn't like with a red marker. And there was one bit in particular. He said, "Look, this particular sketch, it's in incredibly bad taste, and I do love bad taste."
I mean, that all arose through Douglas's sort of great self-belief. I seem to remember the story was that he bounced up to John Cleese on Holland Park tube station and said,
"That's right.
Hello, John. I'm Douglas Adams. I'm not famous yet, but you'll be hearing about me soon." and he had that kind of self-confidence and self-belief, which got us into this quote tutorial with Mr. Cleese. But we did, wow. We did have all the Pythons come to one sketch show that we did. In London, wow. So it was that was great. I mean, these are things that you'll carry with you forever. Having met these people.
Yeah, there was one particular sketch that we wrote about. It was just generally known as the Paranoid Society, and afterwards, Graham Chapman came up to us in the pub and said, "Bloody hell! I wish I'd written that one." And that was the closest he ever came to a compliment, really.
But that sketch went on to have a long life, recorded by various people, on LPs and such like. It probably the best known sketch we wrote. I mean, a lot of them obviously disappeared into obscurity following the Cambridge years.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So. Obviously very collaborative, the three of you back in the day.
Yes, definitely, yeah. And I think as performers as well, we were all three very different, right. which helped, when we were actually performing this material.
Mm-hmm. Other than being the bloody Martin Smith from Croydon in The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, so were you guys did you kind of give feedback to Douglas and things while he was writing it? Were you involved in its creation?
No, I think the interesting thing was though that when I seem to recall it was our final vacation before our final term sort of thing, just before we did the final Footlights review. We were there writing sketches for the review, and Douglas had come back from a trip to Greece, and he'd used the Hitchhiker's Guide to Greece or whatever, and he thought he was talking about the idea of a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Wouldn't that be a great idea? And I think the closest we got to collaboration on it was saying to Douglas, "Look, shut up, we're trying to write these sketches for the review, and please concentrate." And that was as close as we got.
If we'd known then what we know now, but that's life, isn't it?
Yes.
And I mean, the other thing is that we did, I don't know how many reviews, 3 or 4 or 5 reviews altogether, I suppose, and there's virtually no photographic evidence of any of it. The number of photographs we've got of the three of us, there's about half a dozen photographs.
Yes.
And again, if we'd known then what we know now, we'd have taken loads and loads of photographs and made a fortune.
Yeah, nobody carried cameras with them all the time like they do now.
No.
Yeah, that's true.
Photography was expensive.
Yeah.
So it all went unrecorded.
Yes. I'd love to hear a bit more about what you guys did sort of after the comedy and stuff that kind of led you to this point now. So, Will, am I right in thinking that you have had a long career in publishing?
Yes, basically. I mean, it's a long sort of spine that starts the day that Martin and I met quite by chance at college, which was one of those great nodal moments in life. Mm-hmm. Anyway, we decided that we would become famous scriptwriters, Galton and Simpson or whatever, and we moved to London, and we weren't making a fortune from our script writing. In fact, I think we were making virtually nothing. I
think it was £4 a minute on weekending on Radio 4.
Yes, and we perhaps had a minute, so it's £4 a week, But we got jobs temporary as industrial temps with manpower to supplement our income, and I got a job with a ladies' knitwear wholesaler in the West End, and then eventually a temporary job, and eventually the guy offered me a permanent job as his assistant. So I started off in ladies' knitwear, as it were, in a firm that was quietly dying, and I was sitting there doing nothing. I started doing the crossword in the paper, then I started making up crosswords. Then I saw an advert for an editor for a puzzle magazine, went for the job, got it, and that was how I got into publishing through the back door via puzzle magazines, and then ended up with a book publisher many years later. And then when they sold themselves to the great HarperCollins conglomerate, I decided to take the redundancy option, effectively to go freelance. And I've worked for myself for the last 35 years as a freelance book editor, and now book author. But this is non-fiction, not novels.
Okay, right. So you were in editorial for most of that time in publishing?
Yes. I was commissioning and editing, transport nostalgia, which is my thing, which always has been since I was a kid. Trains and trams and whatever.
Oh, okay.
I'm now writing books on that subject. I don't do any more editorial work. I'm so-called retired, but of course, when you're self-employed, you never retire.
Yes.
So I got rid of all the things I don't like and kept the things I do like, which is basically writing. And puzzle compiling. I kept the puzzles going, so I still do crosswords for people and such like.
Oh, okay.
So it's varied.
Those are you're publishing non-fiction stuff as well.
I'm writing for a publisher of non-fiction stuff.
Yes. Okay. Oh, okay. That's cool. So you have quite a lot of knowledge and experience within this industry when it comes to
the non-fiction side, which is very different from the fiction side, very different, because it's all about small specialist publishers, which are much easier to get on with than if you write a novel and try and get into Random House or whatever, then forget it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean it's a big.
It's almost impossible to get in unless you're Richard Osman or J.K. Rowling,
Sure, it's the size of the fish and the size of the pond, or something or other.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, cool. And Martin, you am I right in thinking that you worked in advertising?
Yes, well, I mean, unlike Douglas and Will, who did English at Cambridge, I was an economist. Okay. And when I was suddenly finding myself looking for a job, I was thinking, well, I've been writing comedy and I'm an economist. How does that work? So I tried to find a job as a stand-up economist. And the closest I could get to it was working in advertising, really. So I started off as a copywriter, writing ads, and then realized that there were sort of constraints like clients and creative briefs and things like that. I wasn't used to that when I was writing comedy. And so somebody sent in the lifeboat for me and moved me into the marketing side, into the management side. So I basically worked at an agency called Ogilvy's, then at Saatchi's, then at TBWA, and then was one of the founders of an agency called Bartle Beggle Hegarty back in 1982. And we were kind of renowned for doing things like the Levi's campaign and the Audi campaign and the and the Boddingtons campaign. And Boddingtons was a favourite of mine at that point. And basically, I worked at that agency for longer than most people work at most companies, about 18 years, and then I became CEO of a big American agency. So I kept in the business for a long time. And then moved into sort of slightly odd areas of it as technology took over from classic advertising. And I started a marketing tech company in 2015, which basically stopped when COVID stopped because COVID started because 90% of our business was in the States and we could no longer visit the States. So
of course.
I decided that was time when I could actually politely retire. And so I sort of did. Having said that, on the way, I like Will carried on writing, and I co-wrote a play back in 2006, which was on at the Actors Centre in Covent Garden. With a guy called Paul Twivy, who was also in advertising, and that was another one of those wonderful, near successes insofar as it nearly became a radio series. At the last minute, the BBC lady decided that they were no longer doing satire, and it was sort of satirical. So that was the end of that.
Yes. Okay.
Yes, I've also, like Martin, continued to write comedy. I think you can take the boy out of the footlights, but you can't take the footlights out of the boy. I have an alternative Martin locally here, and he and I have written plays and pantos and what have you for the local Amdram company for the last getting on for 30 years actually. And so that the joy of comedy performing is something that you never lose. The joy of hearing people laugh at something that you've said or written is an incomparable experience, I think, and it's something that I hope I'll never lose.
No, exactly. Yeah. I mean, in fact, I suppose the biggest of those experiences we've had in the last sort of decade or so was the celebration of Douglas's virtual 60th birthday at the Hammersmith Apollo, where a group of us got the Hammersmith Apollo, which has an audience of about 2,000, and it was packed one Sunday afternoon with a whole bunch of us who'd worked with him over time, performing old scripts, all holding the scripts because we didn't have time to rehearse anything. And it was the most extraordinarily long show, but immensely successful. I mean, there were an awful lot of people arriving in wearing dressing gowns and carrying towels, sitting in the front row. But it was an extraordinary experience.
Yes, it really was. And of course, the Paranoid Society sketch was performed.
Absolutely,
inevitably.
With some of the original performers in it, Griffiths Jones and Clive Anderson and people like that. So,
it was they were our contemporaries back in the day, so it was quite a sort of college or uni reunion, really.
It was indeed, but it also included others like Richard Curtis and Terry Jones and people like that.
Wow.
Yeah, David Gilmour.
Yes. Well, yes, Dave Gilmour did in fact, it was half of Pink Floyd and half of Procol Harum who came together to serenade us at the end.
That's another experience that we'll take with us.
Yeah.
Every time the Eventim Apollo or something now it's called. Every time it comes on the telly, like Live at the Apollo is filmed there. I always say, I've appeared there. Just sort of, just casually.
Just casually, yeah.
Oh, really?
To anyone who's not listening, really.
Anyone who's not listening, anyone at all. There's people at bus stops. Yes, anyone. Yeah.
Amazing. That sounds like an incredible memory and experience to have had. We are at the point in the episode where I ask you both the question: if you were snowed in at a cozy woodland cabin in the middle of nowhere, which book would you hope to have with you?
Shall I go first? I mean,
go on then. Yes.
This is just sort of. I like a good thriller. For reading, I particularly enjoyed over the last couple of years Michael Connolly, American author, brilliant thriller writer. And I'm reading one at the moment, and that would be really good because they're good, chunky books. They're very linear. There's not a lot of psychology or exposition or whatever. It's almost like real life crime. Because he knows. I think he's an ex-crime reporter, so he knows how it all works. So it's very, very authentic, and they're very absorbing. Other books that made a big impression on me years ago were the Patricia Highsmith Ripley books. They were also very gripping. So I think I'd want a good chunky doorstop of a thriller.
Okay, yeah, that's a cool choice. And thrillers it's always fun to just have something that's all about the pace and just has so much forward momentum when you're reading it.
Yes, and it's resolved at the end. So
yes,
that's all. That's the beauty of any thriller. Usually that you get a resolution.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which you don't get in life.
Well,
kind of, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sometimes
if
you're lucky. Martin, how about you?
I find it quite difficult to think of a single book, but because I kind of flit from one sort of genre to another. But I mean, I'm very much like the writing of Jonathan Coe, and I'm very keen on books like his books like Middle England, which are amusing. They're satirical, but also incredibly intelligent. Right. And I love the structure of the books, and I mean they're quite often quite complex structures, but very interesting ones. And so I think, yes, if I could have more than one, I'd probably have all the ones he's written, because I think I could finish them all and then start again and enjoy them again.
Yeah. Okay. And is that historical fiction or is that non-fiction?
No, it's modern. I think Middle England was about the struggles to get to grips with what was going on in the mid. The last decade and the Brexit vote and all that. So there's a degree of crossover with where we are.
Okay,
but there's nothing better than a well-written book.
Exactly.
Whether it's fiction or non-fiction, the pleasure of reading a well-written and, dare I say it, well-edited book is, there's nothing more irritating than reading a book that's badly written, badly edited, or whatever. I've abandoned books because I just can't bear the absence of full stops, semicolons and things,
Sure. Yes. Punctuation.
Punctuation is the it's the bar lines in music. It's writing is music, and
yes.
If it's discordant, then you don't enjoy reading it.
Yeah. No. Yeah. It makes sense. Awesome. Some great choices there from both of you. Neither of you, I noticed, picking up The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but that's okay because that's probably one of my choices. So.
I thought there was, in a sense, that's too predictable, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess.
Well, we read that.
Yes,
but there's a line in Hitchhiker. I mean, I don't keep on dredging this little story out, but there's a line in Hitchhiker which actually does appear in one of our sketches. And actually is filleted out and put in dictionaries of quotations and so on about talking about space. You may think what's the phrase, Martin?
You may think it's a long way down to the post box.
The chemist. That's right. Yes, you may think it's a long way down the street to the chemist, but that's just peanuts to space. And that's actually I've got the handwritten. Because all the sketches were handwritten in those days. We didn't. I think Douglas had a typewriter, did he?
No, I was the one with the typewriter.
You had the typewriter
afterwards.
Yes, but we used to write them longhand. Yeah, yes. and I've got this bit of ancient paper with the peanuts to space line written on it, tucked in my copy of Hitchhiker.
Oh, that's nice.
For prosperity, I hope. Certainly for posterity.
Maybe prosperity one day.
When the great auction. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Amazing. Awesome. So next up, we're going to talk a bit about self-publishing, a bit more on the co-writing stuff. That will all be available on Patreon at patreon.com/right-and-wrong.
As I say, we keep being told that it's far too expensive to make nowadays, and
right.
So we'll see.
Yeah, the things I've heard about TV is like your best bet is if it's contemporary and it's set in a real place, because they'll see it and they'll say, "Oh, we can afford that." That's just we just go somewhere and we can film that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's why starting in Cambridge, it hasn't changed that much if you stick with the old colleges.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, that's exciting. Hopefully, watch this space and maybe we'll see some more from the two of you together and apart in the future. And that brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you so much for coming on and telling us all about Consequences and everything else that's been going on with you guys, and a little bit down memory lane with your time at the Footlights and things like that. It's been really, really fun chatting with you both.
Thanks for inviting us. Thanks for inviting us. It's been great fun. Yeah,
it's been great. And for anyone listening, Consequences is out right now. You can get it on Amazon and probably other places too, but Amazon's probably the best bet for getting it.
You have to put in our names as well, though, because it's too difficult. Martin Smith and Will Adams, because I think we discovered rather too late that there are 4 or 5 other books called Consequences, or maybe more, 400 or 500.
Okay. Well, you'll know for next time to call it something very obscure.
Yeah, exactly.
To support this podcast, like, follow, and subscribe. Join the Patreon for ad-free extended episodes and check out my other podcasts, The Chosen Ones and other Tropes. Thanks again to Martin and Will. Thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next episode. Shout out time. One of my amazing patrons, Lee Foxton, is querying their debut novel. It's a family drama, commercial fiction along the lines of Jojo Moyes and David Nichols. Fingers crossed, I am rooting for you. Good luck.